You think you know someone. 7 years together, 5 of them married. Sarah and I had built this whole calm, reliable life just outside Boulder. Cozy house, matching mugs, 2 pampered cats, Saturday morning farmers markets. We had our routines, our little world, and I thought I knew every corner of it. I thought I knew her. She liked her coffee with too much cream, always misplaced her keys, and hummed the same 3 notes when she was deep in thought. We shared passwords, grocery lists, and silly inside jokes no one else got. Every Sunday, we made pancakes together. It was our thing. She'd mix the batter. I'd handle the griddle, and the cats would weave around our ankles like tiny, furry sharks. Felt real, sturdy, built to last. That Wednesday morning started like any other. A client meeting I'd been prepping for got cancelled last minute, so I decided to work from home. I brewed coffee, opened my laptop, and settled by the kitchen window. Sarah was getting ready upstairs, pacing barefoot, chatting on speakerphone with one of her friends about dinner plans and how awkward last Saturday was. I didn't catch all of it. Didn't think much of it then. She came downstairs a few minutes later in a navy sweater I liked on her and that oversized tote she swore was ideal for quick errands. Her hair was tied back. Casual but tidy. And she kissed me goodbye like she always did. Twice, actually. Once by the fridge, then again in the hallway because she said she forgot to really kiss me. She did that sometimes, doubling back like she didn't want to leave things unfinished. That kind of thing still made me grin. "I'll be back in a couple hours," she said, grabbing her keys. "Coffee with Emma." "Tell her I said hi," I replied, barely glancing up from my screen. That detail burns now. How offhand I was, how trusting. I watched her pull out of the driveway and vanish down the street. I had the whole day to myself. No meetings, no calls, just quiet. That was the last moment I remember feeling normal. Maybe 10 minutes later, I heard the faint buzz of a phone vibrating. At first, I thought it was mine, but my phone was on the table. Then I saw hers on the windowsill by the sink. Sarah never forgets her phone. Like, never. That thing's practically glued to her hand, but there it was, screen glowing, a call coming in. I picked it up to mute it, figuring she'd left in a hurry. But the screen didn't show an incoming call. It was an outgoing one, already connected. That was when everything started to fray. The speaker came on by mistake. I didn't mean to hit it, but my thumb must have brushed something. And suddenly, I was hearing a man's voice. Low, warm, southern, a little teasing. A voice I didn't know, but one that clearly knew her. "You almost here, darlin'," he said with the kind of easy intimacy you can't fake. I froze. Then Sarah's voice came through. Soft, familiar, flirty in a way I hadn't heard in years. "Just past the gas station. Should be there in 15. Same room. Number 6, he replied, chuckling. Of course, she laughed too. "You always pick the same one." He said something I didn't catch, something low and playful. She responded with this little giggle, this cozy little giggle that hit me harder than any punch. Room 6, Highway 85. It was a rundown motel. One of those roadside spots with peeling paint and a vending machine that only works if you smack it just right. But to us, it used to mean something. We stayed there once, years ago, before we were married, when we got stuck in a blizzard coming back from a ski trip and all the decent hotels were booked. We made the best of it, laughed about it for weeks. It became an inside joke. Our place, she'd call it, tongue-in-cheek. Now she was using it for something else. I didn't move, not right away. I just stood there in the kitchen, clutching her phone like it was some alien object. My ears were ringing. The sound of her voice lingered, sweet and low, talking about traffic and how she couldn't wait to see him. Then she mentioned grabbing coffee on the way. Something about picking up that blueberry scone he liked. It was so mundane, so relaxed. I set the phone down carefully on the counter, like it might detonate if I moved too fast. My pulse hammered in my ears. The floor felt unsteady, like I might fall through it. I stared out the window, but I didn't see anything. Not really. My brain had short-circuited. Every thought, every memory of her was suddenly suspect. Had she been lying this whole time? How long had this been going on? Why hadn't I noticed? The silence in the kitchen was deafening once the call ended. It just cut off mid-sentence, like nothing had happened, like my world hadn't just split open. I didn't call her, didn't text, didn't shout, didn't even cry. I just stood there for minutes, maybe longer. I lost track. I didn't realize how tightly I was gripping the counter until my fingers ached. That kind of silence doesn't come from sorrow, it comes from shock, from something inside you snapping so fast your body can't keep up. I wasn't ready to accept what I'd heard. But the truth doesn't wait for you to be ready. She'd left her phone connected. She'd forgotten that tiny detail. And because of that, I heard everything. She came back like nothing had happened. Arms full of groceries, keys jangling, humming to herself. The front door creaked, and there she was, casual, put together, the same woman I'd kissed goodbye 3 hours earlier. She smiled when she saw me in the living room. "Hey, love, I grabbed those granola bars you like." I didn't say anything, just watched her cross the room and set the bags on the counter, chatting about how packed the store was and how she ran into some lady from her book club who never stops talking. Her voice didn't waver. Her hands didn't shake. If anything, she seemed at ease, maybe even lighter. She was good at this. I nodded, gave a small smile, even helped unpack the groceries. I must have mentioned the weather. I don't recall, but I remember the weight in my chest. I remember watching her place a loaf of bread on the counter with the same hands that had probably just been on someone else. She asked about my day. I said it was fine. She didn't notice anything off in my tone. Or maybe she was pretending not to. Maybe she was banking on me staying the same old husband who trusted her without question, the guy who never snooped, never doubted, never pushed. That guy was gone. I barely slept that night. She was curled up beside me, back to my chest, her breathing slow and steady. I lay there, staring at the ceiling, eyes burning in the dark. Every breath she took twisted my stomach. How could she just sleep? How could she lie next to me knowing what she'd done? But even in the silence, I didn't move. I didn't push her away. I needed time. I needed to see how deep this went before I decided anything. The next morning, I told her I needed to visit my brother in Fort Collins, just for the day. She didn't ask questions. She even kissed me goodbye, told me to drive safe. By noon, I was parked half a block from that motel on Highway 85. It hadn't changed. Same faded sign, same cracked pavement, same rusty staircase to the second-floor rooms. Room 6 was tucked around the corner, mostly hidden from the street. I stayed in the car, windows cracked, hoodie pulled low, pretending to scroll my phone. Every time a car pulled into the lot, my heart raced. Every time it wasn't her, I exhaled. An hour passed, then another. Then I saw her car. She drove in slowly, like she knew the place by heart. She parked in the same corner spot we'd used years ago. She didn't get out right away. She checked her mirror, touched up her lipstick. Then she stepped out, tugging her sleeves, adjusting her jeans. Walking like this was just another errand. I snapped a photo, then another. One more when she opened the motel door with a key card that definitely didn't come from the front desk that day. 10 minutes later, he showed up. Tall, lean, relaxed as hell. Ball cap, gray hoodie, confidence in his stride. He didn't knock. He walked right in, like he owned the place, like this was their place now. I sat in my car and watched. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I didn't do any of the things I thought I might. I just watched the door close and took a picture of the time on my dash. Then I waited. My fingers itched for action, but I wasn't going to barge in. I wasn't giving either of them the satisfaction of my anger. I stayed another 45 minutes. That was enough. I drove home the long way, windows down, cold air cutting through the car to keep me awake. My mind kept flashing images, her hand on the doorknob, the way she glanced over her shoulder before going inside, the softness in her step. She came home that evening with a receipt from Whole Foods and a story about long lines and rude cashiers. She even made spaghetti, poured us each a glass of wine, sat across from me like a wife with nothing to hide. I nodded along. I smiled. I asked about her day, and she talked like she hadn't just been with another man in the same motel we'd once laughed in together. She cleared her plate, rinsed it, asked if I wanted to watch something. I said I was tired, headed to bed early. She didn't push, just kissed my cheek, told me to rest. Later that night, I heard her phone buzz on the nightstand. She was in the shower. Normally, I wouldn't have touched it, but this wasn't normal anymore. The password had changed. She'd never done that before. And yeah, she was good, but not better than me. I got in. I'm not proud of how, but when trust dies, so do boundaries. The photo gallery was the first thing I checked. Nothing explicit. No smoking gun. But there were small moments. A selfie of her, head tilted against someone's shoulder, both in hoodies like they'd just come in from the cold. Another at a diner I didn't recognize, coffee, 2 plates, a shared dessert. A shot of her shoes on a dashboard, not our car, but his. Her smile in those photos wasn't the one I knew. It was softer, unguarded, younger somehow, like she'd shed something before stepping into those moments. I checked her call history. The name wasn't saved suspiciously, just Michael James, 2 first names, harmless looking. But the log was a dead giveaway. Dozens of calls, some at lunch, some mid-afternoon, some at night when she said she was soaking in the tub or walking. Others right after dinner when she'd step outside to call her sister. Texts weren't in her main app. She used a second one, tucked in a folder labeled self-care. Cute. When I opened it, I stopped breathing. They weren't sexting. No dirty pictures. But what I found was worse in a way. They talked like they were a couple. Like I was the outsider. Inside jokes, pet names, chats about movies she'd never mentioned to me, restaurants she said were too pricey for us, plans for next weekend. He asked if she was still sleeping next to the stranger. She replied with a broken heart emoji and only for a bit longer. That phrase stuck. Only for a bit longer. The next few days were a haze of pretending. Pretending I didn't know. Pretending I still saw her the same way. Pretending I wasn't silently unraveling every memory of the last 7 years, trying to pinpoint when things shifted. It felt like my life had been sliced in half, one side kept playing the part, while the other watched it all burn. She didn't notice. Or maybe she did and hoped I'd stay quiet. Sarah was always good at reading people, especially me. But I played my part too well. I laughed at her jokes, brushed her back in the kitchen, said dinner was great when I could barely swallow. I studied her like a stranger, noting every glance, every reach for her phone, every skipped song that might remind her of me. That Saturday morning, I tested her. Over coffee, I casually mentioned joining her gym, acting like I was finally serious about my New Year's resolution. She blinked once, just once, but it was enough. Then she smiled too brightly and said, "That'd be great." Great. She went upstairs soon after, and I followed quietly a minute later. She was in the bedroom, back turned, phone in hand. She didn't hear me in the hallway. I watched her fingers fly across the screen. She paused, stared, deleted something, typed again. I cleared my throat. She jumped, turned with a laugh that didn't reach her eyes. "God, you startled me." "Sorry," I said. "Didn't mean to sneak up." She tucked the phone away like it was nothing. "Just texting Emma, right?" That afternoon, she said she had errands. I mentioned I might drive to the bookstore, get some air. We kissed at the door. She smiled, then left. I waited 5 minutes, grabbed my keys, and followed. She drove toward the gym like she said, but didn't stop. Circled the block once, then turned onto a side street and headed west. I stayed a few cars back, windows down, radio off. I knew the area. Not much out there but old warehouses, fast food joints, and apparently Michael's gym. She pulled into the back lot, parked behind a dumpster like she didn't want to be seen. I parked across the street, angled my mirror. She got out, checked her reflection, adjusted her jacket. Then he came out. Michael James. I'd seen him once, a year ago, at her gym's open house. He led some fitness class. I remembered thinking he looked like a stock photo, clean-cut, lean, annoyingly charismatic. He didn't look like a homewrecker, but they never do. He spotted her before she reached the door. Smiled. That same easy smile I'd heard over the phone. He didn't hug her, not out there, just nodded toward the back entrance. She followed him in. I waited. 20 minutes later, they came out separately. She headed to her car like she'd just finished a workout. He went back inside. I watched it all from behind my sunglasses, heart beating slow, steady. Their routine wasn't sloppy. It was practiced. I followed her again when she left. She didn't go home. She detoured across town, parked at the same motel. Room 6. She had the key, let herself in. He arrived 15 minutes later. Same car, same swagger, same lack of worry. I took more photos. I had timestamps, plates, locations. A pattern was forming, a system. They were good at this, not just sneaking around, but planning, building a second life right under my nose. I don't know how long I sat there, engine off, watching shadows shift behind worn curtains. The sun started to dip. Cars came and went. Nobody noticed me. I was just another car. When she finally left, it was dark. She fixed her hair in the mirror before pulling out. Her headlights flashed as she turned onto the highway, probably humming, already crafting her excuse. Whole Foods again, maybe traffic. Maybe Emma had a crisis. I could hear the script forming. I waited until she was gone, circled the motel once, then drove home. She beat me there by 20 minutes. Dinner was reheated pasta. She poured wine, played some acoustic covers, acted like she wanted a cozy night in. Her hair was damp, like she'd showered at the gym. Her smile was lazy, familiar. A mask. She asked about my day. I said it was good. Asked about her errands. She rolled her eyes, said, "Don't even ask." I had to hit 3 stores just for almond milk. I nodded, chewing through a lump in my throat. I don't know what hurt more, the betrayal or how easily she buried it under these ordinary conversations. How she could move through our house like nothing was wrong. How she could sit across from me after kissing me goodbye just hours before being with someone else. Later, after she fell asleep, I opened her phone again. I'd copied her messages the night before, synced everything. I didn't want to keep digging through her device. I wanted to review it calmly. And I did, every word. There were patterns. He called her Saz. I hadn't called her that since our 3rd year together. She used to say it felt too juvenile, but with him, it was cute again. She called him Jay, short for James, I guess. Said it made him feel like her secret, like he wasn't someone people could just look up. Just Jay. In one message, she said she felt alive again. In another, she told him being around me was like living in a gallery. He didn't say much back. A few compliments, a photo of a lake, a joke about how he could save her. I stared at that one. Save her from what? From the house she furnished? The life she helped shape? The man who stood by her through job losses, illnesses, her dad's surgery? I powered off the phone, placed it back exactly as I'd found it. In that moment, I didn't feel heartbreak. I didn't feel rage. I felt cold. Because now I knew this wasn't lust. It wasn't a lapse. This wasn't a mistake. This was a second life, built quietly, day by day, lie by lie. And I was going to dismantle it, piece by piece. She started slipping without realizing it. Little things, the pauses when I asked about her day, the slight catch in her voice when I mentioned her gym or brought up old memories she couldn't fake her way through. I started setting traps, not blatant ones, nothing she could call out, just careful comments, gentle prods to see what cracked. One night, I asked how Emma's new boyfriend was doing. She blinked, confused. "You said they were having issues last week," I added. "Oh, right," she mumbled. "He's fine, I think. Haven't talked to her today." But I knew she hadn't seen Emma in 2 weeks. Emma had posted vacation photos from Portland that morning. Sarah hadn't even liked them. When you stop trusting someone, the lies get clearer. Not because they're worse, but because the illusion's gone. Sarah was still performing for someone who'd stopped clapping. Later that week, she said she had a late work dinner. She changed outfits 3 times, picked a dress I hadn't seen in months, took extra time on her makeup. I watched from the kitchen as she spritzed on perfume, something subtle, costly. She used to wear it only on anniversaries. Might crash at Emma's if it runs late, she said, heading out. She's closer to the restaurant. I nodded, told her to be safe, kissed her cheek. She left smiling, thinking I bought it, but I knew where she was going. She didn't head west toward the restaurant. Her GPS pinged east, toward a residential street I'd never had reason to know until that week. Michael's place. I'd confirmed it earlier, piecing together her messages, photos she thought she'd deleted, scraps of location data that told the real story. I drove out 20 minutes later, parked half a block down, and waited. Her car was in the driveway. No lights on in the front windows. The house looked normal, quiet. If someone passed by, they'd assume a couple was inside watching TV or asleep. Nobody would guess another man's wife was in there, slipping further from the life she pretended to cherish. I didn't go to the door. Didn't pound on it. What was the point? I wasn't there for drama. I wasn't there to catch her anymore. I had what I needed. I took photos of her car, the mailbox with the address, the timestamp. I sent them to a folder on a separate drive, labeled as a fake work project. I told myself it wasn't revenge I wanted. It was clarity, proof, something undeniable, for her, for me, maybe for court if it came to that. She came home the next morning, sticking to her planned excuse. Emma says hi, she said, dropping her purse on the kitchen table like she wasn't a stranger in her own home. I asked how dinner was. She said it ran late. I asked what she ate. She paused half a second, said chicken. I didn't smile, just said, sounds nice, and kept spreading jam on my toast. She didn't notice my silence. Or maybe she thought it was stress, boredom, just marriage. But something in her eyes shifted that morning. A hint of caution, like maybe I wasn't as oblivious as I used to be. The next night, I brought up Michael. Not directly. No accusations. Just mentioned I'd driven by the gym, saw him outside talking to someone. She blinked. Oh, yeah, she said. Didn't realize you two still talked. Thought you dropped his classes. She hesitated. I mean, we say hi, but not really. I nodded, sipped my water. He seems like a decent guy. She smiled tightly. I guess. I left it there. She didn't bring it up again, but now she knew. And suddenly, she got more cautious. Her phone stayed on her, face down, locked. She showered right after getting home. Laundry went straight to the washer before I could touch it. Her texts got briefer, vaguer. When I asked about her plans, she gave less detail. It didn't help her. It only confirmed mine. By then, I'd spoken to a lawyer, just a consultation, no commitments. I brought the folder, showed him photos, read off texts. He didn't react much, just nodded, took notes, asked questions I wasn't ready to answer. Do you want to stay with her? He asked eventually. I don't know, I said. I just want the truth. He nodded. Most people do. But the truth doesn't always fix things. Sometimes it just lets you walk away clearer. I left that meeting with a weight in my chest. Not anger, not grief, just clarity. Cold, sharp, undeniable. The next day, I came home early. Didn't tell her. Said a meeting got cancelled. Walked in just past 2, keys jingling. I called her name. No answer. I checked the bedroom. Empty. Kitchen. Same. Her car was out front, so I knew she hadn't gone far. Then I noticed the guest room door closed. I opened it slowly. She was inside, sitting on the floor, back against the bed, phone in hand. She looked up fast, startled, tried to smile. Hey, everything okay? Yeah, just chilling. Her phone screen dimmed before I could see it, but I didn't need to. I knew who she was texting. "Can I ask you something?" I said, stepping inside. She straightened. "Sure." "How long?" She froze. "What? With him? How long has it been?" Her mouth opened, closed. No sound. I didn't push, just waited. She stood slowly, like she was made of glass. "It's not what you think." I laughed once, sharp. "It never is, right?" She stepped forward. "Let me explain." "You've had months to explain," I said, backing up. "You chose silence. You chose lies." Her hands were shaking. "I didn't mean to hurt you." "But you did." I left the room without another word. She didn't follow. That night, we barely spoke. She cried in the hallway after she thought I'd gone to bed. I heard her through the door, muffled sobs, quiet pacing. I didn't get up. There was nothing left to say. We were past negotiation.